Hi, my name is Cody. I'm a software engineer here in San Francisco, and in this video series we are recreating Lovable from scratch using LangGraph. In the last video, we had improved the user experience by streaming back the large language model output in real time, along with the steps of the agent and like how it's currently thinking and what step it's on. It's a much better experience, but we actually still have some things that we want to do. One of them is we want to create a live preview that kind of shows the page as it's being built in real time. This is an even more engaging and interactive experience than what we currently had. One thing to point out is that these videos are becoming a little bit longer. They're increasingly becoming longer as there's more coding and programming involved to get to the next milestone. I try to edit out any parts that might not be super relevant or that might, take away from the core concepts of what we're actually trying to build and doesn't actually add any value to you. So this might be like times where I'm debugging or going super in depth on certain issues or bugs. It just doesn't make sense to include all of that. Although I still am kind of figuring out the format of these videos. If you want me to show more of the nitty-gritty debugging parts of the process, I'm totally happy to do that. But I also just don't want to make the videos too long and not have people actually end up watching them just because of that issue. Another thing is I recommend watching these videos on maybe 1.2x or maybe even 1.5x. Just because there is so much that we're covering. They can get pretty long if you don't do that otherwise. I try not to glaze over any of the concepts. I try to really strike at the heart of what we're doing in each step. But I'm definitely not perfect at that, and there might be times where I move a little bit quickly, or maybe it's not super clear what I'm doing. Feel free to leave comments with questions or requests for clarification if that happens. This is a very just kind of real world experiment. We're just kind of putting it out there, seeing if it's useful, seeing if it's not useful. So a lot that we're learning from this. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and dive in. I'm gonna try to keep this one a little bit shorter. Okay, so in the last video we had set up streaming using the LangGraph streaming tool. Let's just take a quick look at that. So in our app.py, then we basically just changed it so that rather than calling graph.invoke on the LangGraph object, we actually call graph.stream, and then we have these different streaming modes. Last video I was debugging this a lot, trying to understand exactly what the output is depending on the different streaming nodes. They have three options: updates, which we learned in the last video. Updates will stream out just the updated state change that the last node wrote to. Messages will stream out the actual large language model content that gets generated. And then values is it basically will stream out the entire state graph, like the state object, in between every single step. We decided to just go with the sparse updates, where it's only putting out the updates from the node, as well as the large language model messages. One thing I did off camera is we updated the JSON response object to change this type to update, only for the case where it's an LLM message coming out, and that's just because the front end code that was generated by Cursor was a little bit janky, and it was actually returning the state object in the user interface. And then the other thing we did was we added in a final message that gets sent out once our LangGraph, once our agent is done with its current step with the final workflow. And that way the page will know to automatically refresh the iframe as well as stop streaming and kind of tell the user that the message is done. Another thing that we added this morning is we added this live preview, which is actually just a modal kind of overlay where we actually take the code snippets that are streaming back from the large language model and we display it in a format that you can kind of watch as it's building. To do that, we just wrapped our JavaScript front-end code. Let's find it. We wrapped this. Okay, so here's where we're processing the stream on the JavaScript side. And what we did is we check if the node is a message. Here we go. So in the processing stream, we actually have the ability to check what node it's streaming back from. And if it's streaming back from the right HTML code, we know that it's actually generating live HTML code and streaming it back. So what we did was we created this HTML preview variable, HTML preview content variable that basically will hold all of the HTML content. And then what we do is we put it into this processing review function call. at this process review, process preview content right here. And then in here, we just stream in the information, and we actually will chunk it so that it's about 60 characters long. And basically what we're doing is we're just waiting for it to stream back enough HTML that then we insert the HTML onto the page so that you can watch the HTML as it's being generated in real time. So let me just do a very quick preview of that, like what that looks like. Just go into our interface and say, please create, or please change this page to have a completely new color scheme, new color and branding scheme. So now the experience it will still do what it did last video. It will think, it'll say that it's routing the message, it'll tell us that it's like made the decision to write code, it'll create the game plan, and then what you'll see here soon is it's going to stream back all of the HTML in real time and render it so that the user can see the page being constructed in real time. This is a much, much better user experience than what we had 2 videos ago, where it was just this view right here, where they would just be sitting here, basically in this view where it's just spinning, just because the latency is so long. Like, these runs can take up to a minute sometimes, 60 seconds, maybe even more than that. As opposed to this, what you're about to see is that it's streaming back the HTML in real time. You can kind of see behind this window that we also have it kind of displaying the code to the user. Right now it's writing the CSS, and then now it's writing the actual HTML content. And you can see it in real time, appending the content to the page, which is a very cool user experience, right? This is a pretty unique and interesting thing that we can watch the large language model build the web page in real time. So this is just one of those things that makes it a little bit stronger. There's still some glitchiness. You can see it's kind of like the scrolling bar is kind of glitching around and moving around. So it's not perfect by any means, but still kind of a little bit a better experience, a funner experience that's more more likely to keep the user engaged than what we had before, where it was just spinning the wheel. So this video is really just an overview of that. I wanted to keep it short. Some of the development, the development was done offline. I was just kind of doing it this morning. It's hard to always record every single code change, but let me know if you do want me to code in real time more, or if you just want these high-level overviews showing the progress. I'm happy to do either or. The next video, I'm actually going to put together a little bit more of a roadmap, kind of detailing some of the higher level milestones that we want to hit, and that will also give us a good kind of high-level understanding of things that we still need to do, how we should prioritize them. Like I said, we want to be adding in back-end functionality, like full stack functionality, so that it can do more than just have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. We also need to make a really easy way to deploy it so that, ideally you could do a one-button click and it would deploy a Llama bot instance like this. We also need to add things like message persistence, to where if you refresh the page, it can save the previous messages and conversations. Maybe even adding in the ability for you to have multiple projects, so that it's not just a single page. That could also be something that makes a lot of sense. And there's a whole lot more that we could add on. So definitely looking for feedback, definitely looking for people that are wanting to build on top of this thing or use this for their own projects. It's all totally open source. It's all totally free. We want to make it really easy to host. We want to make it really simple, but definitely reach out if you have any questions. Hosting this, it can be very, very simple. It's not that hard to deploy at all. We're definitely looking for GitHub, collaborators and reviews and that kind of stuff. If you want to go, if you're looking at it, feel free to fork the project, run it locally. You can, make your own changes, your own tweaks. Go ahead and give us a star. You can open issues with us in the GitHub repo. And yeah, we're excited to kind of build this community out. And thank you for all the comments I've gotten. They're very small, they're very short, but they, it's exciting to see people engaging. Oh, and there's one more thing. We actually did get past the 30-star. One more thing is we actually got 34 stars over the course of a week and 7 forks. So it's a small amount. It's a good start, but that's kind of fun to see. So yeah, we'll see where this project takes us. Thanks. I'll see you in the next video.